1069.
Welcome to Thursday morning on the Stansbury Show here on Rock 1069. If you missed Wednesday's program, we podcast that daily for you. That's posted at WRQK.com. You can get made up there. We talked about some of the best burgers in the area. The day before actually had been Burger Day. Every day seems to have a national food. You know what? I should probably just start Googling that every morning. Like, all right, is it Noodle Day? Is it Mac and Cheese Day? Is it Burger Day? Pizza Day? Which one is it, for crying out loud? Well, we talked a little bit about that. If you missed that conversation or any other, the podcast is up for you at WRQK.com. I did enjoy that conversation yesterday. It encouraged me. And I said this, but, you know, when we were in the throes of COVID, you know, everybody, we started to get worried, like, we're going to let you out of the house, man. And I remember I asked the question online. I said, everybody's been dying to head out and eat. Where do you go? Where's everybody going first? And it was chain after chain after chain after chain. I was like, oh, man, it's a little depressing, right? And because everybody talked a big game about wanting to start business and COVID and all that. And then I was like, hey, you guys are going to be let out of the house like next week. Where are you going? Right? And it was like chain after chain. I was like, okay, all right, whatever. Eat where you want. I'm fine with it. But I noticed it. And so when I asked the other day, I was like, who's got the best burgers in Stark County? So many of the responses were local businesses. And that made me very, very happy. I mean, obviously, people started to talk about George's downtown, right? And Cameo came up a bunch, and, you know, a slew of others. A lot of people mentioning Taggart's there. I've been there 1,000 times. I've never had the burger. I'm going to have to try that. More than a few people had mentioned. I brought up the 19th Hole because they have a smash burger on that menu. It's awesome, and they're right downtown. As a matter of fact, a couple of listeners heard me yesterday and decided, to go for themselves and check that out. I appreciate it. So we had a little bit of that conversation yesterday, and I was encouraged about the fact that people were looking to shout out local places. And I will say this, we are lucky here in Stark County. We have great both chain and local food options here. Not every place does. We are, I think, lucky when it comes to that. So we got into a little bit of that yesterday on the program. Today, we got some interesting stuff for you. Like at 9 a.m., that one of the actors from Stranger Things. You guys like this show a lot more than I did. I jumped off even before it finished. It was fine. It's a good show. That's not what I'm saying. I just kind of fell out of love with it personally. But those kids in that show were all supposed to be massive stars moving forward. And I kept telling everybody, like, no, they're not. They're going to hit puberty. They're going to start to look weird. And, like, it won't really work. We've seen this a million times with young, cute kids in shows and movies. And, like, we've seen this 1,000 times. Most of these kids are going to be faceless by the end of this. And some of them won't even be actors. But the one kid kind of warmed everybody over. Gat Matarazzo, I believe is his name. For anybody that doesn't know his name, this is how you would refer to him. The kid with no teeth in Stranger Things. Yeah, that kid. He's out here now telling a pretty elaborate story about how when he was 13, 40-year-old women were fawning over him. And some of the things that they would say to him and send to him and do some of this stuff. And you don't normally hear about this, like, the creepy female thing. That's normally like the guy's thing. It's like men are kind of creepy, right? This is pretty disturbing when we start talking about the fact that this was a 13-year-old kid. Yes, a celebrity, but I'm not sure it changes it at all. And so we'll get there coming up at 9 a.m. That was a little bit of a weird conversation. Also at 8, I have a piece of audio here from a young female who says, and she's very attractive, this young woman, by the way, and she says she thinks she knows why this generation of men are afraid of women. She said partially it's men's fault, partially it's women's fault. She's looking to clean up her side of the street here a little bit. I have some audio on that. We'll do that. We'll get to that coming up at 8 o'clock. Also, in the 8 o'clock hour, Jerry Seinfeld, of all people now, is coming out and talking about how we need to return to having real men. He says, I like real men. He said, we need to bring a lot of that back. Jer, buddy, I love you. I think your show is one of the best shows ever made in the history of television. I'm not sure you're the poster boy for masculinity. So we'll get to what his comments were, the return of real men. Will we see it? And again, like I said, I'll have some audio for you as young women are looking for young men to return back to being men as well. We'll spend the 8 o'clock hour talking about it. Yesterday, we had to talk a little addiction because Jelly Roll was saying marijuana
Okay. I need to withdraw $625 from checking.
A mother from the Cleveland area is now suing.
No, I got it on the app.
She claims that they are designed with the sole purpose of becoming addicting so people cannot put the controller down. I guess I'm never going to be shocked that a company that makes a product tries to make it one of those things that
just
playing with
in an envelope
as often as humanly possible, otherwise known as being a value for your money. I'm never going to be shocked that a company's doing that. This woman is. She is, of course, worried about her kid and how often they are playing video games, whether or not they are addictive. I have a story from a guy I know that flunked out of college because of video games. We will get to that. We will spend part of the 7 o'clock hour talking about that conversation this morning here on the Stansbury Show.
Here's what's next on the Stansbury Show.
Okay, man, so the Creed headlines just keep coming, right? There was the Cruise, there was Scott Stapp talking about how he felt like the people loved Creed, but the media hated him. And now, all of a sudden, we are going to see Scott Stapp in a manner I don't think anybody was expecting. Apparently, there's nothing Scott Stapp cannot do. We'll get to that story. We'll do it here next. Welcome back to the program. I think it was last week we ended up talking a lot about Creed. Scott Stapp had said, look, the media hated the band, didn't represent the people. And I felt like he had it wrong. I felt like the media talked about him so much that that's what made the audience kind of turn on them a little bit. The oversaturation thing, kind of what Taylor Swift dealt with a little bit during the NFL season. Like, I don't think people hate her. I think people are just like, oh my God, enough already! Sick of hearing her name. And I think that's kind of what happened with Creed a little bit. And musically, let's be honest, they're not necessarily the hardest band in the world to mock. His voice is easy to kind of mimic, and you know, the Jesus thing, and they're taking themselves a little too seriously. And I don't know about all of Creed, but Scott Stapp kind of felt like he was taking himself a little too seriously, right? So there's, you know, they're a little bit of an easy pinata. I get it, right? But now I'm hearing about something else Scott Stapp is getting ready to do, and I'm shocked about it. He's going to be in a movie. And I'm not surprised about that so much. I mean, I guess he's a decent-looking guy, and, you know, I mean, he's probably has a watchability factor. That's fair. But he's going to be in a new biopic about Ronald Reagan. Now, relax. He's not playing Reagan. Because that would be wild, right? Scott Stapp as Ronald Reagan would be crazy. He's not playing Ronald Reagan. We'll get to who he's playing here in a second. First, I should tell you that Dennis Quaid, I believe, is playing Ronald Reagan. I want to make sure I have this right because this looks like a typo in here. I want to make sure we have this right. Yeah, it looks like Dennis Quaid is going to be Ronald Reagan. So get ready to hear everybody tell you how they hate this movie. It's not going to be any good. Oh my God, it's awful. Because about a day ago, Dennis Quaid came out and said he will be supporting the former president, Donald Trump, in the upcoming election. So we know how that goes now, right? Everything Dennis Quaid has ever been in. Oh my God, this is why people always hated you. Oh my God, gotta throw it out. Can't ever watch it ever again. Can't do it. Oh my God, the threat to my democracy. Never watching him. And like there'll be a bunch of that kind of stuff that happens. This movie could be amazing, and you're going to hear about how it's awful now because of that. Never mind the fact that it's also surrounding a Republican president. They're going to get accused of whitewashing the history and trying to make Reagan look better than he was. And I mean, dude, when this movie comes out, it's going to be obnoxious to think pieces from like Slate and Guardian and Pink and all of those places that just yell at you about enjoying any damn thing. Like, that for sure is going to happen. As soon as I saw Dennis Quaid supported Donald Trump, I was like, okay, yeah. I was like, that new movie's over, dude. Like, people are going to be beside themselves about it. Every article will be about that. But what the hell is Scott Stapp doing in a movie about Ronald Reagan? I swear to God this is true. He's playing Frank Sinatra. What? Like, I can't think of a bigger miscast than that. First, what I would have maybe done is I would have tried to go unknown there, right? you already have to put an actor and a name inside the role of Reagan. You kind of have to do that. That I get. That's going to be tough enough as it is. When you start talking about everybody else, I would almost go with an unknown that has maybe some of the singing chops that you could use and maybe push them there. It's going to be impossible to not watch that movie and sit there and to be thinking about this. You know what I mean? It's going to be like Sinatra and higher. Like, what the hell is happening here? He does not come off as Frank Sinatra to me at all. And I'll tell you the other thing that makes it absolutely bonkers. They're going with Scott Stapp as Frank Sinatra for the Ronald Reagan biopic. You may not remember this. We talked about this on the program. But there is another member of Creed who has a deep love, respect, and admiration for Old Blue Eyes, Frank Sinatra. That other member of Creed is Mark Tremonti. Mark Tremonti had released an album, did he not, where he was covering some of the Frank classics. Like this one, you'll know, is Under My Skin. This is Mark Tremonti singing Frank Sinatra. 1, 2, 1, 2. I remember when this came out, I was like, this is nuts. But he ended up kind of killing it. So I guess my question is, why don't you just get...
I've got you under my skin.
Now that doesn't sound as impressive right now as it used to. Here's the reason. AI is doing this all over the place. I just saw a video of somebody making 50 Cent look like Conway Twitty and singing his catalog. AI is kind of making everybody do everything now, but this literally is Mark Tremonti singing Frank Sinatra as he released the record.
I've got you deep in the heart of me, so deep in my heart that you're really a part of me. I've got you under my skin.
Why wouldn't you just use this?
I tried so not to give in.
You hear that and you're almost like, dude, why wasn't Mark Tremonti singing more in Creed? Like, why didn't they have like a dual like frontman thing?
I said to myself, this affair never will go so well.
He sounds a little like Frank, but enough. He sounds different enough in some of like the ends of the words where it's like you can tell it's not Frank, and you can just tell it's somebody who's still pretty damn talented.
But why should I try to resist when, baby, I know so well?
If you're Mark Tremonti and you watch this movie come out and you see Scott Stapp playing Sinatra and it doesn't come off well, you are going to be... It's 330-450-7625 to send a text to the studio. You can also find me on your socials, The Stansbury Show. You know, we talk about whether or not people care about what other people think quite a bit on the program, and we do care what people think. If we didn't, advice columns wouldn't be a thing. Advice influencers wouldn't be a thing. Hey, learn how to be more masculine. Hey, learn this. Hey, learn that. Hey, do this. Hey, be better at this. Absolutely none of those things would be valuable if people didn't care what other people thought about it. And I had been called I've been called a beta plenty of times while hosting this program. And that happens because I'm honest. And most times, a lot of people who are presenting shows to you are only showing you one side, one thing. Don't see behind the curtain. Only see what I'm presenting out to you, right? And a lot of others too don't do it that way. Right, so I get called a beta a lot. So one of the things I decided to do was I found this alpha male website. Right? Alpha male. This is teaching men how to be more manly here. It's alpham.com. And sure enough, he has some advice here on not looking too old. If you're starting to age, it's like, yeah, you want to be age appropriate, but you don't want to, overage. You don't want to start to look a little too old. And this happens, right? The older you get, the less you care about fashion, the less you care about looking old. He says here, where you shop is making you look old. If you're shopping at Brooks Brothers, you're likely more mature with old money. But that equates to looking old. It says young dudes wearing older clothes look young and cool. Older men who wear older clothes make them look even older than that. But on the flip, he says, what I would say is don't say on the flip. But he says on the flip, don't wear clothing that's too young, making you look awkward or that you're trying too hard. Avoid any clothing that is too tight, youthful, or trendy. If you're in a store and everybody's young enough to be your kid, you're in the wrong store. Well, that can be tough, right? Not a lot of clothing stores are going to have people my age in them. I guess maybe you could say the department stores at the mall. Yeah, right, which that's normally where I do shop. I don't think this is terrible advice. We had this conversation a couple of months ago, about a month ago maybe, about Jordans, because comedian Sebastian Maniscalco had said, like, there's a cutoff. There's an age cutoff. Like, at a certain point, you can't be wearing J's anymore. And I said, well, I don't know what the cutoff is. I said, but I don't think they're going to look right on my feet anymore. I said, maybe some throwbacks, and some new J's, like, that's probably not going to be my thing, right? Probably not. He says, eating a crappy diet ends up your body and your skin look horrible from a poor diet. This is true. Dehydration would go with this. If you're not drinking enough water, it's going to make you look old. Your skin will get ashy and dehydrated. That's all true. Alcohol consumption. He says too much of that will age you terribly. Tired eyes. If you have a lot of dark circles or your eye skin looks like old, what he says, testicle skin here, you need to use eye cream and get enough sleep. So here's the thing. I've bought all the eye creams from everywhere. This is one of the things I am self-conscious about in pictures and videos. I look very, very tired all the time. I have the dark circle, Vince Vaughn, Jesus, has this guy ever slept a day in his life look, right? I kind of have that, and it's depressing. I've bought all the high-end stuff that you're supposed to wear. You put it on before bed, and again, when you get out of the shower a little bit, twice a day, just dot it on your finger, put it underneath there. None of it helps. Absolutely none of it helps. If you wanted to go with a concealer, maybe, but like now we're getting past my comfort zone. You know what I mean? I'll use a little eye cream if it's going to work, but I bought it from 1,000 different retailers. None of it ever works. I feel like that, you know what? Eye cream to me is a lot like gas station ED pills. It's like, it's hope in a package, but it ain't gonna work, right? Like, that's one of those things that I just don't see. Premature hair loss makes you look older. If you're not interested in caring for it, then shave your head. Yeah, I get that that's easy advice. Not everybody has the right shape of a head for a bald, to go bald. If I felt like the shape of my head would work for me, I would absolutely do that. But I don't think it will. My hair has thinned since I was younger, obviously. I don't think I'm in any danger of going bald. That's not necessarily my thing. They say neglecting your grooming will make you look a little older. Don't look like a savage there. Well, wait, I thought alphas don't care, and I thought alphas wanted to be big and hairy, and so the woman knew I could pick her up and put her over my shoulder, and I'm on the brawny package. What do you mean? Well, this sounds crazy. It says you need to groom. Get rid of long and nasty hair that grows in weird places. Yeah, I can't believe anybody needs to be told that. Also, you need to maintain your hairstyle. Yeah, it's probably a good idea. I get a little guilty of just putting a hat on, coming back and forth to the office. There's no cameras in here. There's no windows in here. I see already kind of know. And I've dated down plenty of times. Plenty of time. Most of my life I had dated down. Except when I was younger, then I dated story 100 times. Off the strip there, like right around, woman, beautiful woman, right? And she was great. She was killer. But she looked even younger than she was. Young. This is a long time ago now. It's probably like close to when I first moved here, 9-10 years ago. So, it's been a little while, but she looks really young. And we were sitting in that restaurant, and a woman walked in with her son, and they sat in the booth behind us. And the mom was facing me, and she never took her eyes off me the entire time she did. I mean, never once. She just had that mean, nasty, my husband left me for the secretary and now you're the poster for all things I hate in my life. And she kept picking up her food and eating it and never broke contact with me, just stared at me the entire time. And I was like, all right, I'm getting to the place now where I look too old for this now. I was like, all right, we might have to reevaluate some of my life choices at that point. And that stranger, she did, that judgment It wasn't, like, at first I got pissed at her. I was like, screw that lady, blah, blah, blah. And then I realized, like, I'm not mad at her. I'm mad at me. I'm trying to hold on to my youth and my cool, which is long gone, right? Like, see you later. And I'm trying to hold on to it by this young lady right here. And this older woman right there recognizes what the hell I'm doing. She is calling me out silently with her eyes and her pursed lips. And so next thing you know, I was like, oh, God, okay, I really have to reevaluate everything that's going on with me. Welcome back to the program. 9 a.m. this morning, we're going to take a look at an actor from Stranger Things says 40-year-old women were hitting. Weird, creepy. We'll get there coming up at 9 a.m. We talked a little addiction yesterday on the program via Jelly Roll, saying weed keeps him sober and the like, right? If you missed those conversations, that in the podcast at WRQK.com. We're going to have to talk about addiction now, as a mother in Cleveland is claiming that, well, addiction, it comes in all forms, shapes, and sizes. Sonia Foster is suing a number of software companies for what her lawyers are calling intentional video game addiction, which I would tell you, you can get sucked into a game. You know, I have said, you know, I still game at my age. I carry some guilt over that. I feel like I could make better use of my time, although relaxing and time sucks are part of life. My favorite time to do it is Saturday, Sunday morning. I wake up very early, even on the weekends. And so, like, coffee and a little, you know, give me like a little bit of that. If I don't have plans, I have seen 6-7 hour sessions from like 5 a.m. Saturday till, you know what I mean, 10, 11, noon, something. You know, I mean, I've done that. That's crazy, right? That's a long time. So they kind of pull you in. Ed Kelly happens to be the lead attorney for Foster in her lawsuit against the gaming industry. He admits plenty of kids play video games without issues, but he's playing 10 to 12 hours a day, staying up all night, being late for school because they are playing video games and not really putting their best foot forward at school. Overall, their complaint names 16 different video game creators as defendants in the case. The list will include some of the most well-known companies. Microsoft, Sony, EA Sports are all listed. They say the goal of the lawsuit isn't to end video games as we know it. Quote, just let parents know what to look out for, how to protect their children. When you are dealing with such a vulnerable population, just... Well, there are warnings on video games already. My guess is most of those are about content and a mature rating versus, like, this is totally appropriate for your kids. The video games is going to be a weird thing, man, because, like, this industry has completely transformed a little. And what I mean is, yes, on the onset, it felt like a thing for children. But video games have come a long way. And I mean a long way. I mean, I know people don't want to look at it this way. Candy Crush is a video game. If you're playing games on your phone, that's a video game, right? So more adults are playing games than ever before. And if you're a game creator, it's kind of like making a Pixar movie, right? There's a little bit of a similarity here in the sense that the hook is for the kid, but mom and dad who had to take the kid to the movie don't have them sitting there 2 hours absolutely hating what they're looking at. Work some adult stuff in there. And that's kind of what the games did. And then all of a sudden gaming realized, oh my God, a huge part of our audience is both female and older than we thought that they were, right? And so the industry's been going through a lot of this, right? For now, they say the legal fight begins. Only time in the court system can tell us where it will go. Quote, video games are among the most dynamic, widely enjoyed forms of entertainment in the world. We prioritize creating positive experiences for the entire player community and provide easy-to-use tools for players, parents, and caregivers to manage numerous aspects of gameplay. Claims that say otherwise are not rooted in fact, and ignore the reality that billions of people globally of all ages and backgrounds play video games in a healthy, balanced way. Yeah, I believe that can be true. That's a statement from the industry there. And I could understand, and I believe that to be true. You know how many people I know who have been able to pick up cocaine, use it casually, and not become addicted to it? A lot. And I mean a lot. I know probably 30 guys that do coke maybe twice a year. and never again. They just kind of pick it up, dude, golf weekend, or hey man, a bachelor party, and they kind of pick it up and then never do it again. A lot of people do that. It's not the reality of most users of that product, though, is it? That's why it's like these stories are always strange, because it's like, well, I don't know if we can base what we do in our reaction off the kids who have become severely addicted to video games. But also, I'm not sure it's the best idea to base it off of people who can play them, kind of pick them up and put them down casually. I don't know who to base it on. I can tell you